Why do you think Russian is still so dominant here in Kazakhstan? Your perspective, as someone who's been living here for the past 11 years.
Well, I think that, first off, it was demographic reasons, is that traditionally in Kazakhstan, the Kazakh language was spoken almost entirely by ethnic Kazakh people. And of course, we know the rare exceptions where there's some Russians in a village somewhere or some Chechens in a village somewhere who learn Kazakh. But by and large, right, 90+% of Kazakh speakers are ethnic Kazakh. And so it was kind of ethnically bounded. And at independence, Kazakhs were a minority in Kazakhstan. And so language policy couldn't be as aggressively Kazakh forward as it was in, for example, Tajikistan, where Tajiks were 80, then 90% of the population. It was quite logical for them to say, let's let Tajik be the state language. Let's use Tajik in everyday life. So there was this compromise that was made, right?
So it's not a monoculture, right? It's very diverse by design
and Russian traditionally played that role of lingua franca, right? Between different groups. If a Korean and a Uyghur and a Kazakh are going to meet, Russian was
outside of a joke, outside of an anecdote, right? So they have to speak Russian.
I can't think of the punchline, but they would speak Russian,
yes,
right?
They enter a bar,
and speak Russian.
Yes,
they're never going to enter a bar where they speak Kazakh.
Yeah.
So Russian became that lingua franca when really Kazakh could just as well play that lingua franca, but that transition period is very awkward, right? Yeah. And what we're seeing now is this inflection point where ethnic Kazakhs have become a majority in Kazakhstan. Kazakh speakers, that is Kazakhs who speak Kazakh at home, have become a majority in Kazakhstan. And at a certain point, it becomes untenable where the majority of the country is speaking Kazakh at home, yet has to go out in a public environment and speak another language, right? They have a right to receive service in Kazakh, to speak Kazakh as much as they like. The real inflection point happens when non-Kazakhs stand up and say, we are going to learn Kazakh. And by the way, not just non-Kazakhs, any non-Kazakh speaker, any ethnic Kazakh who's a primarily Russian speaker who says, I'm going to make the choice to study Kazakh and to speak it every day. But what are the barriers to that? You're probably familiar with them, right? Is that there's a lot of shaming involved. There's a lot of baggage that's connected to that. So there has to be a time where that we work through that baggage so that people can feel more comfortable.
Interesting. So just recently I came across a documentary which was actually sent to me by a mutual friend Emir. Yep. It's a 1992 documentary made by NHK, Japanese TV station, who came to explore this new country who just got independence and to explore the entrepreneurial scene here in Kazakhstan. Wow. Incredible film. I think the agenda is pretty clear. Japan was on the top of the world, growing economy. They were looking for new geographies to invest. And so this was their attempt to learn about this new country. And so they basically follow Bulat Abilov, who was number one businessman, sort of symbolic of this new free markets era here in Kazakhstan. And they show the city. It's an incredible movie. Like they go to Baracholka, they show the streets of Almaty. They go to the Kazakh German university, and there's a long line of Germans waiting for their visas to immigrate. So it's 1992. Kazakhstan got independence. They're like, okay, we're not staying here,
right.
And they were showing the stats and sort of ethnicity-wise, and it's like, I don't know, 40% Kazakhs, I think, something like that. I don't remember the exact details, and it made me remember my elementary school.
Yeah.
I had 30 students in my class, 5 Kazakhs, the rest are non-Kazakhs, 2 Koreans, I don't know, a few Chechen, I don't know, 6 or 7 Ukrainians, Russians, Germans. It was like melting pot. But when I moved to Astana in 9th grade, it was like how many people I had. Like there were 7 boys and 20 girls, so 27 students.
Yeah.
And I would say 25 of them were Kazakhs. So it's very interesting. It's just my sort of personal and of one kind of a story, but the kind of symbolic of the ethnic question here in the country. Yeah.
It's an unusually drastic demographic transformation, right? It would be hard to think of other examples of countries where the ethnic demographics shifted so drastically within just 3 decades. And I think the country is still coming to terms with the consequences of that. But you can feel just a certain vibe that has changed, where Kazakh speaking culture has come into its own in a way, especially since the war, right? Where there's this feeling that this whole generation, I call them Generation Q, of young Kazakh people who speak Kazakh, would prefer to speak Kazakh, right? Well-educated, urban, and are creating their own Kazakh language culture. And that's the future, really, of Kazakhstani culture, right? And we can all feel that, and we can all be inspired by that. And that's how things really change, is from below, right? From those cultural movements, not from the Ministry of Education saying we have to make more Kazakh classes or something like that, right?
It's always bottom up.
Yeah.